how's it going? Today I want to do a FELCO Pruner buying guide. I've been using FELCO Pruners for as long as I can remember, and I've talked about them several times, but the line is pretty vast. Like, there are a lot of different pruners available, and it can be confusing to know which pair of pruners to buy based on what you're going to use them for, what your budget is, and what size your hand is. So there are 4 different categories we're going to go through. We'll talk through each of the different styles, and I'm hoping that it just helps you guys understand what might work best for you. So this one right here is a FELCO 2, and this is the one that I use and the one that I've always used, but it doesn't necessarily mean it would be the one I would recommend for you. Like, if I could talk to myself 15 years ago, 20 years ago even, I might assign myself a FELCO 6 based on the size, but I think I've used this style for so long, it's kind of become an extension of my body, and that's what we want from tools. We want tools that feel like they make the job easier, they don't wear your body out, and so forth. So I've also had an opportunity since we started working with FELCO this past year to try out a lot of their different types of pruners, stuff I didn't even know that they had. And so it's really opened my eyes to all the different things you can be looking for. All of their hand pruners are broken down into 4 categories, and I don't even have all of them that they offer. I just have like just a small handful, really. But they can be broken down into the Essential line, which is kind of their introductory type of pruners for kind of low usage. They're less expensive. Then you've got your Classic line, which the FELCO 2s fall in that line, as well as a few others I'll show you. Then there are the Ergonomic type, and I think that that's probably their best-selling category. They've got 2 different styles in that Ergonomic line, I think. There's probably more. But one of the styles has a rotating handle, which I'll show you, and it's easier on your wrist and your arm if you deal with arthritis or carpal tunnel. And then the other ones are a little bit more formed, so you can get one that's maybe formed to the curvature of your hand a little bit better. And then the last type are anvil pruners, which are for clearing dead wood. So to figure out which type of pruner would work best for you, I think you would ask yourself a series of questions, starting with, am I going to be cutting a bunch of dead wood that's typically really hard to cut? Or am I going to be cutting more soft green material, like cutting back perennials, deadheading roses, and things like that? So if you have some tough jobs, some dead wood to cut, your anvil style pruner is the one you would want to go with. It's a fairly small category and pretty specific, I feel like. So I wanted to start with that one first. I feel like most of us would want maybe something more multi-purpose, but these are very helpful in tough situations. So the anvil type pruners, they cut with more of a crushing motion, which you don't have to put as much like oomph into it. It's easier on your body and your arms to have an anvil style. You've got the FELCO 31 and the FELCO 32. The 31 has a flat anvil, and what that does is when you're cutting, it pushes the wood away from you, and it's better for more fine work. And then you've got the FELCO 32, which has a curved blade and a curved anvil. So when you're cutting it, it draws the wood toward you, and it's better for more aggressive clearing. I'm not sure with this size of pruner, though, that you would actually feel or see a whole lot of difference in the method in which it cuts. I think you would see that more on a bigger tool like a lopper size tool. The second question you can ask is, what is your budget? What kind of investment do you want to make in your pruners? And if you want to stay on the lower side of things, they have their Essential line, which the difference is that the blades are the same. You get the same FELCO blade, but the construction of the handles is different. They are a plastic handle rather than being a metal handle. So of course it keeps the cost a lot lower. I don't have a whole lot of experience with this line because I kind of tend toward the more professional like classic pruners like the FELCO 2s, which I'll talk about in a second. But the models they have in this category are the 160S, which is a pruner for smaller hands. And then they've got the 160L, which is the larger size of the S. There is a FELCO 5 within this line, which is like a slightly upgraded version of the 160L, in that it has the same blade, but it does have a steel handle. So it's like the contractor model of the 160L. And then there are a couple of different snips available too, which snips are nice to have around for really small jobs. So there's the FELCO 300 and the 310. Again, my experience falls more within the Classic and Ergonomic lines. The third question you can ask is, do I have wrist issues? Do I deal with carpal tunnel? Do I have like extreme exhaustion after I use a pruner for any amount of time? Do I have arthritis? If the answer is yes, you may want to consider a pruner in the Ergonomic line, which I think is their top selling line. There are 2 different types of pruner within that line. There's one with a fixed handle, but it's got a little bit more curvature than like the pruners within the Classic line. And then there is a type that's got a rotating handle, which honestly feels a little bit awkward at first, but I can see like over time how much it would relieve the stress off the rest of your arm to have that rotation. So with the rotating handle pruner, there are several different sizes, and there are pruners both for right-handed people and left-handed people. So if you're right-handed and you have small hands, you would want to go with an F15. Medium hands, you'd want to go with an F12, and large hands, you'd want to go with an F7. And if you're left-handed, there isn't a version for small hands, but there is a medium, which is the F17, and then the large version is an F10. And within that same ergonomic line, you've got your fixed-handled pruners, which again, there are several sizes and ones for both right-handers and lefties. If you are a right-handed individual like myself and you've got large hands, you would want to use a FELCO 8. Medium hands would use a FELCO 6, which I think, and I have no data to back this up, but I think FELCO 6 is probably the most popular pruner that they have. And it's where I would probably, if somebody wanted me to recommend a size, I would say start with the 6 and go from there, because I think it's the most universal in terms of fitting your hand, and it's comfortable and all that kind of business. And then if you have really small hands, the F14 would be a good choice. I've actually started using that style a lot in conjunction kind of with my FELCO 2 this past summer. It's a fairly new one to the line, and it's a lot smaller, so it's really good for fine jobs and floral arranging in particular. I use it in place of my snips all the time. And for lefties, if you have a large hand, you would want to use the F9, and for medium hands, the F16. And are you guys getting that this numbering scheme makes absolutely no sense? That's what I'm hoping, going through all of these and really lining them out, we can make some like less confusion, because there's no rhyme or reason to how they've named all of these and numbered them. So to wrap up the ergonomic line, I definitely think it's the most popular line and one I would recommend most likely first to anybody wanting to try out FELCOs. And you know, if I went back 15-ish years, I would probably put a pair of FELCO 6s in my hands instead of a pair of FELCO 2s, because I think that's actually more proper for my hand size. But the FELCO 2s, which are part of the classic line, are just like they're part of me at this point. I mean, look, I don't even hold them right. This is how I hold them. I put a finger over right here. I don't even use the ends of the handles like I should, because these are built for a larger hand than mine. But the thumb catch is just so natural to me. This feels it feels good. And this is the pruner that started it all. So they're actually celebrating their 75th anniversary this year. They're coming out, or have come out, with a specific 75th anniversary version of the FELCO 2. And I think they're going to send one out, maybe not. But we'll put a link to it down below. But this, I mean, they've just made such a huge impact, the classic line, on the industry. I mean, you can find FELCO 2s pretty much any growing facility you go to, any plantsman that you run into, you'll usually find a pair of FELCO 2s. There are a couple other pruners in that line. There's the FELCO 11, which is actually an upgrade from the 2. So it has a steel anvil rather than an aluminum anvil like the 2 has. And then there's a FELCO 4, which is a kind of scaled down version of the FELCO 2. So obviously I have nothing bad to say about the FELCO 2. It's my favorite pruner and has been for lots and lots of years. But it's made for large hands, and so it's not necessarily the one that I would recommend for you. It's just the one that has become part of me. Okay, so there are a few random kind of outlier pruners that may fall within one of these categories, but they're very specific in what they do. So there's the 4C and H. Let me take it out of its package really quickly so I can show you. It's got something different, like this little plastic piece on the blade. So the C and H stands for cut and hold. So these are really good for pruning roses, because you go in to prune and it holds onto the end. It holds onto the branch. You never have to touch it with any hand. And then you can take it over and pop it in your basket or your bucket or whatever. And then there is a more fancy version of the 4C and H, which is the F100. The F100 is just more robust. It's got a metal handle rather than the plastic grip. And the last pruner I wanted to show you is the F13, which is actually a beast of a pruner. It's kind of like a mini set of loppers. And interestingly enough, it's useful the most, or used the most rather, in the Christmas tree growing industry. So for medium to large size handed people, you can use it with one hand. If you've got smaller hands, you use it with two, kind of like a pair of loppers. And it can handle stuff from like really wimpy nursery material, very soft green material, all the way up to like really big base cuts, like at the bottom of a Christmas tree. And it can handle larger diameter branches than most all of your other pruners. And I could see with jobs like that how this would be so much easier to carry on your hip rather than lugging around a big old pair of loppers. And they've got specific holsters, different styles. In fact, I've got them right here. that you can put on your belt, clip on your pants or whatever, based on whatever pruner you have, to make it easy to where you don't have to have them in your hands all the time. And for the pruners that don't have a left-handed counterpart, like the FELCO 2s and the other ones in the classic line, they can be used in either hand. It's just when you get into the ergonomic line, that's where it makes a bigger difference, and you need either a right-handed pair or a left-handed pair. And the last thing I wanted to mention was size of pruner, because they do have a really good size guide. We'll throw it up on the screen. What you do is you measure from the top of your middle finger down to the bottom of your palm, and that will help you decide what size you should be looking at. And not that it's a hard and fast rule, because obviously I don't follow it. FELCO 2s are for a large hand. I actually have a really small hand. Mine's 6.5 inches from here to here, and a little bit above 7 inches is where smalls start. So mine is quite a bit smaller. So, you know, if you were to measure your hand and tell me that that was what your measurement was, I would probably recommend like the F14 or the F6 over the F2 for you to start with. But it can kind of help guide you a little bit more. You can eliminate, like if you've got a small hand, you obviously don't need to waste your time looking at all the large size models and so forth. So that's pretty much it. I hope it was helpful just to talk about all the different categories and what each one of them does, because the numbering scheme, again, it doesn't make very much sense, and it's hard to know where to start and what one to go with, and you really want to make a good investment because they're not inexpensive pruners, you know, and I think it's FELCO's goal for you to buy one pair of pruners and have it for the rest of your life. In fact, they even sell like little parts, little thumb catch, if you need a new spring, if you need a new blade. I've had to replace my blade a few times because I've used my pruner improperly on heavy gauge wire. And that happens, but you can get for a lot less expensive little parts to replace, and then you have your pruner forever, which is the goal. So anyway, thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you're having a great day, and we will see you in the next one.